Well, I'm David, and from here, actually semi-born and raised. My parents moved to Encinitas when I was 6 months old. Ironically, it was like the affordable place in San Diego at the time, from where they were looking at. And yeah, pretty much stayed here until I was in college. I went to college in the Central Coast at Cal Poly in ag school. I took 0 ag classes. I was in finance, econ, I did a little philosophy and stuff like that. I didn't really have a career path I was gonna pursue. All that's to say I'm from here. Karaoke song of choice. While singing, I did 2 karaoke songs on June, and then I did 1 co-performance. It's a fun vibe. Like I'm telling you, everyone there is like so encouraging. So you never feel alone. My first one was Smash Mouth, All Star. Actually, kind of hard. I didn't really account for that. And then I did Soul to Squeeze by Red Hot Chili Peppers. That one I kind of think I'd impress some folks on. And then someone was a little bit too scared to do it alone, so I was like, I'll sing with you. What'd you sing? Or what'd you choose? And Fix You by Coldplay. And I was like, all right, let's shed some tears. Yeah. Let's get some people crying up in here. Let's go. But yeah, no, thank you all so much for coming here and enjoying the space and getting to, see what we got going on. Thank you to Hannah and Kat for offering me this opportunity to speak a little bit around the business. Oh, you guys see it?
Oh, sorry. I need to use the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, we got a bathroom over there.
Discreetly guiding.
I thought you saw, we have a fox that rolls around here. So I thought if you guys see an animal, point it out. It's a majestic animal.
PTSD from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
straight up fox.
Girls adore it.
Crazy. It's about this big, red belly, brown coat.
First year you've seen it?
It's the year that it's getting really comfortable. I'm like, should I be nervous?
I don't know. It's gonna come up here.
I'm just petting a fox next time you guys see me. But yeah, no, just really cool. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about kind of more of the business side of farming as it pertains, in general, but specifically as it pertains to a small market garden setup like we have here. I know you guys went over a lot of kind of business planning and the business formation side of things with Kat. I saw a lot of the brainstorming around, okay, what is my strategy? What is my, how am I going to make money? Where am I going to sell my stuff to make money? All that stuff. We're going to go a little bit deeper in, possibly. So, raise your hand if I'm like repeating some stuff, but my hope is that we can go a little bit deeper into the weeds on some of those things and apply them to how I've been thinking about growing food as the title of the handout says, for fun and profit on a small patch of land. And I like to set it out too, just to be like, why the profit side? Maybe you guys kind of covered this with Kat. Farming is fun. I guess we're here for that reason. We don't need to be convinced of that. We all love growing food. We want to go in that direction of growing food for a living. And the question is maybe how do you do that for a living? And there's a myriad of different ways. So I'm not going to attempt to say, hey, here's the formula to follow. Rather, I'd love to have you leave today with a general framework of how to think about doing this work and making it financially sustainable for the long run. Because it does nobody any good in this space to just have a farm last for a year and then have it shutter because the financial side couldn't make sense. We want to encourage more folks to come into this line of work. We want more of it being done. And in order for that to happen, we need to convince folks or show folks that it's a profitable venture to take on. And we'll dive a bit deeply into that. I don't know if this was part of the last section or not, but I left a couple questions here just to kind of get a primer on attitudes and feelings around money and farming, because I know they kind of can seem like oil and water. But if you wanted to either jot some thoughts down for yourself to review, or just if we wanted to chat out loud, why don't you take a couple minutes maybe just to jot down some thoughts, and then we'll chat about it in a minute and see what comes up. And when you guys feel ready too, no rush, but if anyone wants to kind of share what comes up from their reflection, be super curious on how people are feeling. I get to start myself, I guess when I first set out to take on this farm, money was an afterthought. I knew I eventually wanted to do this for the purpose of making it a business. But I knew I had a lot to learn, and I knew I had some runway to work with. So that was like very context dependent in that regard. But for me, I don't think I really started taking it seriously from a money management perspective and a money making perspective until last year, when I started kind of be like, okay, I can see how much I love this, and I can see how quickly, you know, a savings account could get burned in the process of trying to upkeep and make this space not only like productive and flourishing, but accessible. That was a big part of us. It's like we wanted to have a space where anybody can come and enjoy. And you know, if you come to the farm stand or you get to know the space a little bit, it's like we will never deny anybody food that they want. You know, it's like if they come up and they say, hey, I'm in a pinch, it's like, cool, like let's get you what you need. And in order to serve the community in that way, you know, we got to be strategic, because we could give away the farm and not have anything else to give. You have to receive some stuff in return. And being open to receive is somewhat of a practice of mine that I've had to do. It's like, hey, no, this took a lot of time and energy. I would like to sell it to you for $5. That $5 is going to go to helping get more of this to folks like yourself, and so on and so forth. But yeah, what comes up for some of you when it comes to the money side and farming? Any feelings, anyone feel joy and excitement around it? Heck yeah, okay. Couple. Most people, neutrality. Is there neutrality? And a lot of people feeling neutral. Okay, Edwin, right on, Bella. And then like, who just feels an upwelling of anxiety or almost like a resentment? That too? Yeah.
Salty farmers.
Totally get it. Yeah. That's a good question. So yeah, I mean, the benefit of thinking about it is we're able to answer that question for ourselves. Like, does this work? I think that's what I'm out to answer for myself. Like, can this style of farming that I love doing so much, can it pencil out? And to answer that, I need to be on top of my stuff in terms of, okay, like tracking things, understanding what things cost, returning back to the bottom line and saying like, okay, yeah, this is working, or like, hey, no, this is not working. And we'll get to some of those strategies later on. But the economics need to pencil out whilst we are honoring the ecological aspects of farming. I think the idea that economics and ecology share the same root word, oikos, which means household. Ecology is study of the house, economics is management of the house. And the fact that those two are one and the same kind of brings this beautiful picture to the forefront, which says like, hey, you can't think of one without the other. If you're gonna have a stable ecology, you need to have stable economics. And if you want good economics, it's gonna rely on good ecology for it to persist. And that's where the invitation is to learn to embrace it, even if it might be a muscle that hasn't been flexed so much in the past. That's kind of the invitation here to lean into. What is profit? You know, I'm sure you guys got an easy lowdown, and like generally speaking, it's simply just like your revenue less your expenses. And we all know that like in farming, expenses can accrue pretty quickly. You know, a new seeder, seeds themselves, fertilizer, land leases, packaging. It's like just to get something to market, you're in the hole already. And so it presents a bit of an opportunity and a challenge to move forward. That said, thinking about the ecology and economics of farming coming together, I like thinking of money, where I've actually heard this analogy was shared with me that really brought a lot of peace in me when I started thinking about money and farming. This guy said, money is like blood in our circulatory system. Humans need blood circulating throughout their bodies to survive, but humans don't exist just to circulate blood in their bodies. They exist to do far more than that. They exist to do great work in the world. They exist to be change agents in the world. But to do that, they need blood circulating, just like a business. A business needs money circulating through it so that it could go out and do amazing things and be a resource for the community, or larger. Thinking about money as profit maximization is kind of akin to thinking about a human being existing just to maximize their blood flow. It just doesn't make much sense, and in fact might lead to a heart attack. So yeah, I really like that. I do think it brings into scope what money and farming, how they can kind of coexist. Kind of moving into like, well, I guess questions there, thoughts, feelings? Anything that anything that comes up in hearing money be pitched that way?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was thinking of like blood transfusions then, of like, what came up was there's this chatter of UBI, universal basic income, and getting that to farmers, be able to like exist, and thinking of it as this like blood transfusion almost into like farmers. It kind of feels like that's where it is. It's like a lot of small farms need these transfusions of like money coming in so that they can like exist. It's just, the community has to support it like somehow. Like, do you believe a farm should be profitable? And it's like it needs to have enough blood to survive.
Yeah.
And not just be bled. I feel like they're being bled out elsewhere. And so thinking of communities really coming in to support, to provide the blood and the support.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. If we take these analogies and we, apply them to life itself, it's like there's a lot of people on life support, like just hemorrhaging blood. Like, life is getting expensive. Life is getting really expensive. Money is not so afforded these days in as much abundance as it once was. And it's like, I grapple with this idea of, how do you earn the right to receive someone's money from them who might already be in a pinch? And it's like, okay, well, that could be more than just a transaction. It could be a connection. They want to see you survive so that they can come see you and have this feeling that they get to share with you every week. It's like, maybe it's just covered up as a transaction of apples, but really they are coming to see you. But yeah, I hear you. Like, it's like the blood transfusion. How does this money kind of circulate? How can we get it? It seems like it's circulating, but it's kind of sporadic lately all across the economy. And specifically for farmers, it almost does seem like if you choose to get into farming, it's like you're automatically giving up a little bit of your blood flow at the start. And so now you got to earn back, and you got to get more blood because like you've bled out so much just in choosing to be a farmer. I mean, we're stretching this analogy pretty far, but I think it applies in the way you just said. I think that's a really good point. Do you think, in the sense of, do you think that question, like, do farmers deserve to earn a profit? I do feel like, and I say this because it's my weakness in some regard, but not asking for the value that you're delivering, that's been a tough one for me, especially when you're a community-oriented kind of farm, and there's edge cases everywhere where, if someone's really in need, absolutely, there's no questions asked. But I do feel like sometimes I'm underselling a lot of my product to avoid the shame of someone thinking that I'm overcharging them. When in fact, I'm probably charging them the right rate if I just stuck with my guns on the first intuition I have. Like, no, this is $11. It's $1 more than what you'll get at Lazy Acres. Lazy Acres is probably $2 more than what you'll get at Ralph's. But I'm kind of learning myself, is like, I want to come with the ammunition to back up and be like, no, that's priced well. And I know that for this, and this reason. And let me also say, like, you're going to eat this tomato and you're going to be blown away. And like, you're going to come back next week and speak to it with that amount of authority and conviction, because that brings forward an energy of like, you'll want to try this, like, as opposed to please take this from me, like, please help me, like, I really need it. And there's some of that, no lie, that I carry. Like I am going up to people and there's a little bit of energy behind me being like, please buy this salad. But the more I lean into it, it's like, just taste this. It's gonna be better than your salad you get at Ralph's. And you might even have a moment of like clarity that comes through, being like, holy crap, this is what I've been missing out on. This is where I want to pour my money into and invest in it. Getting a little bit off topic, I'm sorry, but like I totally hear you just on all the struggles that come with trying to sell food for a living, you know, especially food that you're personally connected with. So, here, what are you gonna say, Sierra?
Yeah, I was just going to add in my commentary from it, which was that, like, for the first question, like, it's something that I love to grow, but then to share that with someone else is so vulnerable, right? It
Totally.
puts you in a place of vulnerability no matter what kind of skill you're sharing, but especially with something that you grow that has so many things that can happen to it. Acts of God, you know, like, you might have a flood, you have pests, you have all these different things, and so when people are looking at your items, they're criticizing or, you know, oh, this is blemished, or this is, it's like, so there's just a lot of vulnerability in that and a lot of other things, I think, with farming and with growing. And that it really requires you, like, in order to make money from it, you have to solve a problem for others. And there is value in that. So then for the second question, just about, like, should farming be profitable? Absolutely, because it's an individual's skills, expertise, and their time spent. And that's hard for an individual farmer to grasp sometimes, because maybe you're just so good at it, or you're, you know, these different things. But yeah, I think it's really hard, and I think it is vulnerable, but there is a joy, and it's not something that we're going to get from the mainstream media that's going to encourage us to keep going. I think it's something that comes from inside, and so we really have to, like, lean into that even when it's not profitable, or even when it feels hard to get money from others. But also be reminded that, like, others do want to pay for your skills and your expertise and your time. I mean, it reminds me of, like, last week with Island Cheese Farms. How can we support you? And next thing you know, he's taking out, like, produce that we would never have had eyes on. You know, and we're buying produce and we're helping to support him, but it's like you have to kind of put yourself out there, and that's that biggest piece for me that shows up. It's like the vulnerability.
100%. Nailed it on the head. It's beautiful. I got all this, like, excitement hearing you say those words, and it's almost turning the question into, like, do farmers deserve a profit? To be like, hey, we're sitting on a very, what I kind of call a gold mine. Like, food is never been in worse shape at an industrial scale. Humans have never been in worse health in, like, the Western world, I would say. That's arguable, but we're not that great of health. Connections are being made more and more between our health and our food. There's, like, an upwelling of recognition that what you eat matters. And, like, we're in the grassroots and on the ground floor of knowing where to get this food, and we're growing it. So it's, like, almost turning this, like, meekness into, hey, we have something seriously valuable to offer. And now it's going out and communicating that value to folks who are, like, just on the cusp of being engaged consumers. I think, like, we're in a really good spot. The challenge, how do we last long enough to seize that opportunity? That is where I think being strategic in your business formation and management, that's where the opportunity is right now. Because I can just see it, like, this is gonna be something folks want. And we're ready to deliver it to them. So, like you said, you know, like, creating value for consumers and customers, like that being the notion of, like, I'm gonna farm for this purpose, and it just so happens, I'm gonna farm to, like, be a steward of this land, and it just so happens that the byproduct of that stewardship is amazing, nutritious produce, and there's a growing, burgeoning consumer base that is finding that being attractive. So, yeah, get me psyched. Okay, yeah, let's move on. I guess, like, the whole notion of, like, money and farming and, like, the meaning of diving deep into this conversation, I think that's kind of set. You know, the next part is, like, how do we get to profitability? And what is the model, quote unquote? And as I said at the start, there is no one model. There are, instead, I would argue, resources at your disposal that will inform you of a pretty good model to try. And then you will implement that model, and you will have adequate tracking in place to see if that model is working, and you'll return back to those numbers, you'll reflect, and then you'll adjust the strategy. And that happens iteratively, just like when you plant a bed. You know, like, I got poor germination. Too much water, too little seed density, no row cover, some row cover, hot weather, not. Context is everything. So same in the business strategy side of things. We need to, treat the business and the management of the business as we treat our fields, where we're constantly looking at them and assessing what might be going wrong here, or what are we nailing? And let's keep doing that. So yeah, context. I'd like to say that, I think Kat had a really good breakdown of the different personas around farming. I tried to just do a quick pass through, and I think it kind of gets, maybe an 80-20 principle applies here. We could probably got most of the identities around farms here, and some of those resource kind of constraints or affordances. I've reduced that down to what's your land access, the land scarcity, what's your labor requirements and capabilities, what's your capital access, time horizon, your farm income dependence. I think a lot of these we can go in depth into each one of these. I'll go from the tiny farm. As I mentioned here, I would say the tiny farm, I would place the tiny farm as here, obviously. I'd put a market garden as Spencer's place at Sage Hill, more of a production farm, 2 acres, maybe, I'd also maybe put, who else fits this model pretty well in this small connected community? Spencer's the one that comes out the most.
Ranchito might be a good one.
Ranchito's getting there, I feel like. Yeah, Ranchito's really kind of progressed in that direction to being more production oriented. Are they at almost a full acre now with the 3 plots?
I think they're 3/4.
3/4? So they're on that cusp. And I see them operating as as much of a community farm as I see them being a production farm. Where I'd see Spencer's Sage Hill Ranch Gardens as they're a production farm that backs into community, it seems. That'd be my little guess. But I'm trying to...
It's the farms that, the Chispa farm and Andy Grow Eco, especially, you guys got to walk over to see Grow Eco.
Heck yeah.
There, he's very much a production.
Sweet. Is he an acre? Are they half acre or a full acre?
I think they have 2.5 acres in total, but I think his plot was 1.
His was 1. And Jose's was, for La Chispa's, how was La Chispa? 1 and 1?
2.5, I think. Or...
They have 2.5, but he's only on 1 acre right now.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, there's some really interesting cross lines, but I would say homesteader, again, we might, funny enough, homesteading a little bit got me into gardening because I was oh my God, the world's gonna end, I gotta learn how to grow all my food. And I was I don't think I can ever be a homesteader. Gardening and gardening beyond just a passion and wanting to do that for a living kind of put me more in the tiny farm category. I tried the market garden at Fox Point, growing at 2 acres, albeit they kind of backed into more of a community-minded market garden where they're producing just enough to justify the acreage that they have, but they're really more agritourism. We'll get more into that maybe later on. But I tried 2 acres. I don't like 2 acres. It was a lot of walking. It was a lot of labor. I was super tired, and it was just too much for me. I'm not saying it's a bad model. I'm saying it's not the model that I kind of found the most energy. And you'll find this, that's why going out and experiencing a bunch of farms as you guys are doing is so valuable, because you will feel oh, this feels right. Or you'll feel oh, this feels like a lot. I feel overwhelmed already, even being on this property. And that was the beauty of having that experience. I'm no, I think I like growing at less than a half an acre, maybe 3/4 of an acre if need be, but reducing the scope, focusing, and then having some of that time freed up to go do the distribution and the community building side. That was kind of my experience. A nonprofit farm, Coastal Roots here in Encinitas, is a really good model of this. Like, they have designated land that is a part of the Leach Tag Foundation, so their land access is pretty secure. Their costs are pretty low for that reason, since the land is donated. So that really very much dictates how they go about selling their food and distributing their food. They got a pay what you can farm stand, which is wonderful. It's a wonderful sort of exercise in just community. They embody that real well. They do a lot of events. I don't know if they feel the pressure so much of growing food for a living, because a lot of that is absorbed from the overarching organization, which does still have to deal with inflows and outflows of cash, but and I'm sure there's some exacting sort of measurements and tracking being had around the farm activities, but for the most part, nonprofit farms, very different setup. And then, like, as like a, our arch nemesis in the whole space, like large farms, like the 100-acre mechanized, monocropped industrial farms. That still has a model to it. They got a high input cost. That means they got to have a huge amount of volume, and their margin is going to be super slim. And that's why we see farming getting labeled as this, fool's errand to like leap into, because if you're not big, then get out. That's what we've been told for the last 25, 30 years. I think we're slowly coming up to show like actually you can stay small and networked and nimble and like make it. If you guys, I'm not sure if you already had, but if you guys want to take a moment to kind of see, like, just do a little bit of inventory of yourself, like what resources do you currently have? What is, and I don't want anyone, and in fact, share if you feel anything that comes up that's overwhelming. But I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. It's just an exercise to start having you maybe narrow in on like, this might be where I start. But yeah, if you want to take a little bit there to like check off those resources, reflect on anything that you find lacking, and maybe some thoughts too on how you can go about acquiring those resources, or anything unique in your life that presents itself in this moment. Doesn't even have to be answered right now. But anything that presents itself as an opportunity for you to start leaning into to maybe get access to some of those resources. That's kind of like our nutshell, like that's the evolution of our business model in a nutshell. Specializing at a small scale, I would say, is kind of, especially when you're low on labor, is what I found to be really appropriate for this size farm. Again, finding the model that fits you, that more diversity might be in your interest or in your benefit. But at this scale, with limited resources in terms of labor and time, this has been something that works. Now the question for me is, okay, if I have the production side solved, quote unquote solved being a very generous term there, it's got to go somewhere. And that is something I want to stress. You guys learned about it a lot, I imagine, in the last, I saw some questions around the sales, marketing, branding, but distribution is something that new farmers and small farms in particular, I think, really take for granted. We have some wonderful resources in this region through specifically Foodshed, who is doing great work in helping people figure out the distribution side of the equation. When you do that though, you give up a little bit of that value because you're going wholesale as opposed to like finding retail clients. In particular for me, I'm giving up about 35 cents on the dollar if I go through wholesale versus retail. Again, like 65 cents an ounce usually for the lettuce, wholesale, $1 an ounce retail. So production's only half the equation. You got to understand, do I want to be a retail farmer? Do I want to go, retail and sell myself retail and capture that whole dollar? Or do I want to go wholesale, take a little bit off of the price to afford myself more volume being moved, possibly more consistently? Restaurants and wholesale buyers are a little bit more consistent than your average consumer. That's why we want to kind of incentivize people to be consistent buyers on the retail side through these subscription services. It's kind of where it all kind of fits in. And again, these are all fun little pieces that you're trying to maneuver and mesh together and see what fits best for you. But for us, we're a retail-oriented farm that does a little bit of wholesale. When you're retail and when you go direct to consumer, there is a certain, especially in this market, North Coast, San Diego, there is an aesthetic and an offering and like an appeal that you kind of not need to have, but it benefits you to have some sort of brand and messaging and legitimacy behind you to let the public know that you exist. And it's crazy because there are companies that are out there that are far better at it than I am, and even still they get people walking in. I'm thinking specifically of an ice cream shop down the way who a good friend of mine runs. They have beautiful marketing, beautiful retail outlet, beautiful messaging, and yet still people are showing up to the shop being like, oh, I didn't know this existed. And it kills her. She's like, oh my God, what more do I gotta do to tell you we exist? That said, it's a hard problem. In a world full of noise and everyone trying to say, hey, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, like look at me, look at me, look at me. How do you kind of like add your iron to the fire and say like, hey, we're here too. That his whole careers are built off of that. But I feel like as farmers, we can't shy away from taking on that marketing piece of the equation. Because you're going to find yourself, and I've done this many times, especially in the first year, I had beautiful beds of little gem lettuce. Beautiful beds, like 3 gorgeous beds. Part of me didn't even want to cut them because they look so good. And then like 3 days later, I see them starting to bolt, and I'm like, oh shit, I got to move this yesterday if I'm going to get rid of them. And struggled, like pretty much started giving it away, composted a lot of it. And it's a shame. So knowing where it's going to go before it's planted is kind of an ideal strategy. Again, Food Shed is a wonderful outlet for farmers. They are doing such amazing work to ensure that every seed a farmer plants, there's a sale on the other end of that. And then they're taking on that inventory risk and they're going and finding buyers. So that is like an amazing role they're playing in that supply chain. And they occupy really, they like to call it a messy middle, where they don't quite have the volume on hand to do the pricing the way that makes it competitive relative to other distributors, but the quality is so much better. It's kind of like somewhere we're all at right now. We're at small scale, we have limited supply, it's known to be of higher quality, and because of that we got to charge a little bit more, but it takes some convincing for your average consumer to be drawn into that transaction. They have that at an institutional level. We have that at a retail level. So just kind of, everyone's dealing with it in some way. Any questions? Any like feelings? Yeah.
Okay, so based on this metric, you make $14,000. Is that your
I made $14,000 last year.
last year?
Yeah.
Is that your profit?
That was my profit.
Is that your pay?
That was pretty much my pay for last year.
How do
Yeah.
you live in Cardiff off of that? That seems.
Well, we split rent by 4 people. There's a lot of benefits. We haven't quite got to that. I'll talk a little bit more through that, but it's a great question. I'm gonna like earmark that and come back to that. So tracking and reporting, so we'll get to the financial example of last year. Tracking and reporting is really important, and it's something that I've fallen out of practice with up until last week. Oh, sorry about that.
You don't have that.
You guys are gonna be seeing it on example farm profit loss.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's something that, you can easily fall out of practice in tracking your expenses and tracking your revenue, but it's something that is crucial if you're gonna have any wayward sign of being like, is this working? And if it's not, what do I have to change? It's really easy as farmers, we just wanna bury ourselves in the field, and it feels good to just go and like put a seed in the ground and know that that seed's gonna grow if we give it enough water, time, and attention, and boom, you get that result, and it feels good, and you have something grow, and it's wonderful. It's a magical feeling, and I wanna do that for as long as I possibly can. But it's really easy for me to retreat into the field when I should be retreating into the books and really asking myself, like, what's working, what's not, how do I gotta change things up?
Well, like you said, David, sometimes you don't want to see it.
Yes. Yeah, you got to be really radically honest with yourself. And it goes back to reminding ourselves why we're doing this and bringing in the economics and the ecological side of the equation together, being like, these need to coexist if I'm going to be able to do this in the long term. Like turning our back on either of those, obviously it's really easy to turn into the ecology side of it. We love that. We love dealing with systems. We love dealing with plants. See you, Claire? We love building soil. We love working in those systems. But if we turn a blind eye to the ecology, we won't have anything to sell. Vice versa, if we turn our back on the economy side of things, we'll have no resources with which to grow abundant crops. But yeah, it's an ego blast. Like you really do have to prepare yourself. If it's something that's overwhelming, you got to prepare yourself for the reality that is soon to like present itself in the numbers. But that said, there are so many examples of farmers doing it and doing it well and doing it in a manner that I'm attempting to. So I know it works, but I just need to be on it and strategic and honest with myself about what's working, what's not. So tracking and reporting is huge. Really the only things you need, there's so many different kind of financial statements you could track, from cash flow statements to balance sheets, but really just the profit loss statement is crucial. You know, what revenue is coming in, where is it coming from ideally, and what expenses are you compiling and where are those coming from? It's going to give you a little bit of sense of if you're making money or not, and it's going to be able to help you ask the question, what's working, what's not, which sales channels are performing best, and where are the growth opportunities existing. I couldn't answer any of these really 3 years ago, and that's because I was so new and I didn't have many of these systems up and running, nor did I really know where to look. You know, I just thought like profit, good, no profit, bad. But that's very like low resolution. I wanted, you know, now I'm like, okay, what's the majority of sales we're getting from our CSA? You know, what's the percentage we're getting from farm stand? You know, where is the majority of our expenses being accrued to? All these sorts of things. Like, should I invest more here? Should I not? And it gives you an opinion. It gives you an opinion about the kind of work you're doing, where I like to equate it to like you becoming a mature, individuated human being, where at first you want to be everything. You don't know who you are. So like one day you show up to high school and you're like the punk rock person because like, you know, you think that's cool. And the next week you're like, you know, you're the skateboarder, and then you're the athlete, and you're just bouncing around trying to find identities until one fits on you and you're like, actually, I like this. This is who I am. This is who I want to be, and this is who I'm going to show up with in the world. And an ease comes over you because you're not trying to be someone you're not. Same goes with business. Like, what kind of business are you? Like, I've kind of shared, you know, repeatedly what kind of business we are, and it feels good. So when someone makes a suggestion, I can kind of filter it through like, is that me or is that not me? I'm like, okay, if it's not me, then great. It's a great suggestion. It's not something that really applies. If it is me, like, dude, I never thought about it that way. That's genius. One of those examples is microgreens. You know, some guys like, dude, you really should get on the microgreen game. Like, it's a really easy crop. You have the infrastructure to do it, and people like it. It's a high value perceived item in these boxes. I'm like, okay, well, that does fit. That is who we are, and that's a really good idea. Getting into the financials here. So you'll see our breakdown from last year. CSA and events and farm stand obviously were like the main drivers. A little bit of wholesale, and we try to hand it merch. And I think merch is kind of good, but it's definitely not a profit generating side of things. It's more of like a branding expense, I've came to find. So that's $71,500. That is an increase from the $22,000 I think we had in 2024. And again, like, that was a big increase based on our ability to extend our expenses. Like, we invested in the business and we got some return from that. To answer your question, last year making $17,000, I had an off-farm job. So I worked at Fox Point 4 days a week while doing this, pretty much 6 or 7. Didn't save anything. It pencils out where rent was $1,300 a month. Expenses beyond that were probably about $1,000. So my budget was about $2,300 a month times 12. It's about 24 grand a year. I made 13 from here, and I made about 13 from Fox Point. So that's kind of how it works. Like, we worked really hard to kind of just keep the lights on. I would be crazy to keep doing this work and not expecting different results. Like, that's just being a masochist. because last year like was really hard, and basically just like really hard work to kind of just prove and build the business. But it worked, you know, the 2 jobs plus some side consulting gigs here and there was able to float my lifestyle. I lived pretty well below a lot of means, and I really tried to make this place as productive as possible. The upside I see that's giving me encouraging feelings that this could go somewhere is the fact that if we grow our subscriber base, our CSA, like I see the promised land. We can grow this into a $150,000, $200,000 business. And this crazy reality is that would, at 30% margin, be like $60K in take-home pay, which is not much. I just think Orange County just declared, I think, $104,000 is the poverty line in Orange County. That is a cool number to reach for. I'm like, I heard that news and I was like, holy crap, what a crazy time. And then like, all right, cool. How do we hit 104? 104 at a 30% margin is $300,000 in sales. That's possible. That's possible. It's only possible through a subscription model. And that's why I'm so adamant about that. Like my clarity on that being our North Star is like just evident. Which brings me back to the reporting and the assessing of like, hey, are we hitting targets? I had a moment this past Wednesday where I'm like, 8 boxes is unacceptable. You know, being a little harsh on myself, but it's kind of unacceptable at this point in the year where I expected us to have average 25. So I had to take inventory of what I'm doing, where I'm investing my time, and what needs to change to get those numbers up to a respectable amount that justifies me doubling down on this venture. And it's hard. Like, it's like, damn, all right. It was like 3 hours of sulking. And then the rest was like, okay, what do we change? What's the first thing? So you don't have that, you just keep sulking if you don't have signals on where the opportunity is directing you. That's why the reporting's so important.
Question on maybe that thought process for you. What do you find, if you find a trend here in terms of like how you either find your customers or witness your customers, or the difference with some of these customers that come to you in these different channels of like, do you find a difference in the person that shows up to the farm stand versus someone who subscribes to the CSA or engages in a deeper way, like, or do they just kind of come to you based on what you put out there?
Yeah.
You know, like, do you find like a thread, or is that kind of what you're looking at right now is like, where do I shift my time to kind of give more? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. I think right now, like the core profile of a person who's a long-standing CSA subscriber is like, they've been around for the past 2 years. And we just keep like wowing them because we keep elevating these boxes to the point where it's like, oh, this is gonna really like make us known. And we're relying on word of mouth a lot. So I'm trying my hand at like being a bit louder in the paid advertising space. And a good example of this is, everyone, or has anyone heard of Misfits Market?
Yes.
Misfits Market is crazy. Like they started as a rescue, like a food rescue business that was directing unsellable produce from farms to consumers and offering it at a discount because the stuff otherwise wouldn't sell from the farm. The guy's first decision, after kind of making some relationships with farms in his like Pennsylvania community, his first action was taking out 3 credit cards and maxing out on paid advertisement. He was $100,000 in the hole, generating demand. That is not stuff I would think anyone should mimic, but I think the attitude should be learned from. Like, I'm gonna get the customer first, then I'm gonna go figure out how to serve that customer. He did it to a degree that is like borderline, like questionable mental state. And it worked out for him. I think in his case, he came from the investment world, so he showed enough growth quickly enough that someone came on, gave some seed investment, covered his debts, and then he was able to actually sustainably and responsibly grow the business. But what that said to me was, oh, I'm being way too cautionary. Farmers themselves are being way too cautionary about selling themselves, selling their work, selling their like hard-earned like products in a way. And we need to uplift each other as much as we need to like really double down on uplifting ourselves. So I'm kind of like, this is a experiment, one of these experiments that I'm tracking based on like a revenue and cost perspective, but just testing some paid ads. So like, what's the messaging? What's the,
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Like what's the messaging that differentiates our box? What's the brand behind it that I've built? How does that get communicated? And then let's throw $25 a day at it. Like just starting Wednesday, I was throwing $25 towards a paid ad campaign to see like if that generates any buzz. And I'm gonna kind of keep doing that for a little bit of time and ramping it up, because the thing is, maybe I don't have something that people want. That is a complete possibility. Maybe I love this box so much, but I am not the average customer. Maybe it does reach the right customer, and maybe it finally does start to appeal. Maybe we do start seeing a little bit of flywheel effects where like some new customer comes in, they buy it, word of mouth reaches a new community of folks. So that's my like learning lesson right now, and that is kind of the experiment that I'm trialing. So I'm cataloging the expenses, I'm seeing what kind of increase or lack thereof is I'm experiencing, and then changing things as needed.
I found out about you because this woman I go to tea ceremonies with, she like posted about your farm.
Is her name Grace by chance or no?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Grace Flowers?
Yeah, her
Nice.
tea ceremonies are amazing.
Okay.
And then also I saw, I think you were like giving flowers or something to New Wave Bagels. So I think there's like a pattern for me at least of seeing you work with other cool, business people.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think it's a matter of difference of awareness, like brand awareness, and then offerings. Because people know us, but then it's like, well, how can we support? And it's like, well, okay, like our farm stand and events, but I've been paring back on those. I don't really push the farm stand as much. Like, I'm like, hey, come out here if you want to hang. Come to our events, are community driven. Like there's a couple free ones. There's a free one tomorrow if you guys want 3 to 5. But I'm not like, I don't want to build those businesses to where I'm relying on them, knowing that this space is going to go. I'm like, hey, CSA box, that's our offering. Like our website has it plastered everywhere. We land on our page. It's not like we're right in your face, but it's kind of like, hey, you want a CSA box? Because that is what that's the behavior we're trying to drive after someone figures out that we exist. It's like, that's the criteria. Like, know that we exist, know what we have to offer, take an action on that offering. Wow that customer with that offering, have them like refer someone else to go through that same channel. And so it's good. No, I'm glad. Like we partner with a ton of people, and that's a little bit of this like priming the pump where you're going to be doing a lot of things that don't make money right away. And that's not the purpose. Our purpose here is to like build community. It's to create beautiful spaces. It's to do amazing work, but it is to kind of have something ready in the background to say like, okay, yeah, you want to like support us? Like here, we have this. This is a really good product that we take a lot of pride in. But don't need to, just come enjoy the space for now. Like earn our trust. We want to earn your business, and kind of the slow going at it is important. It's kind of what we've taken. But yeah, that kind of like maps a little bit to your resource constraints or availabilities. How much time do you have? Like we have had 3 years. Like I've been able to kind of keep it afloat for 3 years, scrapping by and doing a couple other gigs and kind of having other work try to support it. And now it's like, okay, we're kind of getting to a point where I need it to work. Like I'm kind of feeling that constraint more. There's that constraint's more evident than ever, where it's like, okay, this either has to hit or it doesn't. So it's making me make some better decisions. It's making me refine my focus. It's making me a bit more strategically minded, and at the same time remaining balanced so as to not lose sight of, at the end of the day, we're trying to build beautiful spaces and build soil and create nutritious food. Like that's kind of the base of it all.
I have a question out of curiosity about, it looks like there's some other plots that are trying to grow
Here?
on the same street.
Yeah.
Is that new, and do you have connections to them?
I don't. It's not new. Those are from the Self-Realization Fellowship. So these are all plots that have been slated as ag and have been like really admirably protected from development for that purpose. They are pretty insular group. Like they occupy, or they got a good cohort of people that like to tend that land and don't see much interest in sharing the space, which I get, you know. It's like cool land though, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's like a 90-year-old man trying to.
Slow and steady is yeah.
We've been doing it for 90 years.
Oh yeah, we're at like 7 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say we kind of have like just a reflection. Any other questions about the breakdown? Like it was a great question, Bella. Like how do I float myself? It's like you're scrappy, and you might have to have 2 jobs, you know, to start out with. You try to reduce expenses as much as you can, and you try to how to figure out how to, you know, get a little bit more profit out of the business. But it's a juggle there for a little bit, but it's to say there's a lot of upside. Like what we have to offer as farmers is there's value there. That's why I'm so hyped on it. Like I wouldn't be in this if I didn't see that there's a lot of potential coming down the road, and really needing to flex that strategic mindedness or just kind of that like business acumen a bit in figuring out how to meet that opportunity when it does come. I think that's our job. And our job is also to uplift one another too when that time does come. Like when there's an influx of demand, how do I direct people to your guys' farms? You know, how do I let people know like, hey, I can't service you, but there is a farm down. Like Bella, she grows great salad greens as well. Like she does a great thing out there. Like go hit her farm up. Her website's this, this, and this. You'll go through the order flow. It's so easy. Like she'll deliver it next week. It's delicious. You know, like how do we allow each other to succeed in this whole endeavor? Because it's gonna take a village, and if you try to go at it alone, it's gonna be really freaking hard and lonely and not fun. So there is this really cool, I think Lorelai, you were there at the workshop for the functional movement training. Christina was her name?
I believe so.
She had this great line that led off the whole talk, which said, farmers are athletes in overalls. And I was like, hell yeah. And what that meant was like, when you reframe yourselves as an athlete in this kind of line of work, you treat your life different. You go to bed early, you stretch, you eat nutritious meals, you train. Your whole mindset shifts. Just the same way, it's like farmers are entrepreneurs or business owners in overalls. Like, what does that mean? Well, that reframes it from you're taking inventory of your expenses and your revenues. You're making partnerships and relationships. You're thinking long term. You're thinking short term on like what's working now. Like, you start embodying the person that is a business individual. Even though down in the deep depths of our hearts, we're all kind of like just hippies, which is great. But being able to put these hats on makes you really freaking resilient to any challenges that you encounter, and you will encounter through this line of work. I just want to like end on that. There's no one model. Your model is going to be dependent on your context. Knowing what your context is and how it's changing is really important to understanding what your strategic positioning is. To refine your strategic positioning, you're going to have to recognize what's working and what's not. That's where good tracking comes into play. I'll share with you guys an expense sheet that I use that has some format to it that I find worthwhile. So I'll share that with you guys in email. But tracking your progress and then coming back and having weekly, I would say, is pretty good. Like, what did I make this week? Monthly is probably better because it's really easy to get, you know, have like a reflexive, like, oh my God, I didn't make money this week. Like, let's undo everything. I think monthly, even at that, quarterly is probably best. But building a habit of recognizing these trends on a week, month, quarter basis, and being so open to changing course if need be. There's this one last thing, I think it's on your line. I don't know if I put it there. The question I always ask myself, maybe it's not there. Is this working? And if it's working, the next question that's super important, do I like doing this? because it is so easy to build a business. And I have friends in different industries that are facing this right now. They fell into a business that made money. And it was exciting for the 2 years that they started making money. Now they're 5 years in the hole, and they got a whole company that they have to keep afloat, and they hate doing what they're doing. They hate the customers that they're supporting. They hate the work, but they have 7 years now, 5 years of a business that affords them the lifestyle that they've developed, and in a sense, they've kind of created their own prison for themselves. It's a really comfy, cozy, comfortable prison, but it's like a little bit of that. So it's better to kind of address this in the interim. Like for me, I love throwing events. Do I want to be an event planner? No way. Like this is a great event space. Will we have it forever? No, we won't. Why would I be building the event business up if it's taking time away from the thing I love, which is growing food and distributing it through our CSA? So like, boom, that's my like North Star. That's what's kind of got my focus going in that direction. So if it's working, great. You should really commend yourself in making that happen, but like make sure you ask a follow-up question if you like it. That's really, that's one that's overlooked. Any thoughts or reflections? I put some questions at the end. You guys can kind of take some time on your own to answer them or not, but it kind of tries to bring forward just like what comes up for you when it comes to some of these ideas. I really just want to say like kudos to you all for considering this line of work. I think it's a beautiful way to spend time in a career. You got some amazing qualified teachers in Hannah and Kat showing you the way. You guys met some amazing farmers. San Diego is an excellent community to grow food in. We have great weather. We have as local of a food system as I know on the West Coast. We got amazing nonprofits, for-profits, community partnerships that are trying to make this local food network more vibrant. And yeah, you're not alone. So we're always here to help one another.